Beep, 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 beep. All this new, just the news. Hello. How are we all? Okay? Good day. Good day. What have we got for you today? Well, seeing as it's raised its ugly heads again, right? Okay? Let's talk about drag queen story time. I know you don't want to. I know it sticks in the craw. Or as I like to call it, the spread of queer performativity in child circles, because it's queer performativity. It ain't drag. Right, I'll talk more about that in a minute, right? But Spiked Online have done an article, which they did on the 10th of May. Lauren Smith wrote it. And it's a particularly egregious example of what is going on. It's just insane. And I thought, let's just talk about it again, because it keeps coming up. And it also came up with the warrior teachers last night, talking to one of my warrior teachers, who was actually having a conversation with somebody about this and was struggling to get them to understand what's going on. So I'm going to reiterate something I've said before in a video before, but it might be useful for people seeing as it's currently in the zeitgeist, so to speak. So let's begin with the article, which is by Spiked Online. Parents are right to be angry about Drag Queen Story Hour. And then the subheading, I can't believe I'm saying this, the subheading is, why has a Munich library invited an act called Eric Big Clit? I mean, it's not even very inventive, is it? Eric Big Clit to read to 4-year-olds. That's the headline, the subheading, right? I'm going to say it again. Why has Munich Library invited an act called Eric Big Clit to read to 4-year-olds? Now, it sounds Eric Big Clit. I can't stop saying it. As a gay man, this is not a word I use a lot. You can imagine, right? So then there's a picture of him looking like some grotesque caricature. Germany is being dragged kicking and screaming into the culture war. Over the past week, news from Germany, local politicians in Munich have been embroiled in an explosive row over a planned performance of Drag Queen Story Hour in a city library. The Drag Queen Story Hour movement began in the US in 2015, but has since spread across the world. The Munich event, scheduled to take place next month, will include stories read aloud by a non-binary drag king, with the charming name of Eric Big Clit. There will also be a 13-year-old trans child, no such thing, who has written a book about his journey from boy to girl. There's another abusive situation. The event is aimed specifically at young children and is described as suitable for children as young as 4. Go on, tell me why. Just why? Why? Some politicians have understandably expressed concern. The General Secretary of the centre-right Christian Social Union, one half of Bavaria's coalition government, is worried that toddlers are being indoctrinated into early sexualization. Hubert Aiwanger, leader of the Conservative Free Voters, Bavaria's other governing party, has described the event as possible danger to child welfare. Meanwhile, Munich Social Democratic Mayor Dieter Reiter has dismissed these complaints, branding them excessive. That's an interesting use of the word, isn't it? Branded them excessive. Not unfounded. Excessive. The event's organisers, a drag queen called Vicky Voyage, has also hit back at the criticism. Voyage claims that Drag Queen Story Hour is actually suitable for kids from the age of 0. Can you imagine? We'll end up with these buggers in the delivery room. It's a girl. Now, Red Riding Hood, grandmother's the bad person. The wolf's the good guy. Stood there, waiting. Is it out? Is it out? Right, now listen. And that the purpose of these shows is to encourage children to read and to present with them different lifestyles and points of view. You don't give different lifestyles and points of view to 4-year-olds, you absolute unmitigated tossers. What you do is you warn them about how wicked the world is, and you do it subtly. All right? Quite why a scantily clad drag act with a sexually explicit name is needed to help children read is never spelled out. Yep, never spelled out. How can we spell it? How about delusion? Delusion. Delusion. How about delusion, eh? How about danger? Danger. What about that? You want to go with that one? How about not safeguarding? We can spell that out. And while this talk of exploring different lifestyles might sound innocent enough, the Drag Queen Story Hour movement explicitly promotes, here it comes, gender identity ideology, including the belief that we may be born in the wrong body. Many parents are understandably wary of exposing their kids to this. While this is new territory for Germany, In Britain, we have seen a proliferation of drag events aimed at children in recent years. Many of these acts, as well as promoting trans ideology, draw on explicitly sexual themes. Take, for instance, the infamous case of a drag queen called Flowjob, who visited a Scottish primary school in 2020. He then read to children aged between 4 and 11, much to the dismay of parents. Worse still, in 2021, a performer who was memorably dubbed the Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey. God, it's just so surreal. It's so surreal. I am in a different universe. I've jumped from a different universe. Worse still, in 2021, a performer who was memorably dubbed the Rainbow Dildo Butt Monkey appeared at a library in Redbridge for the LGBT Arts Initiative. This event was supposed to be aimed at children as young as 4. Perhaps most disturbing of all was the case of Cabba Babba Rave. In March this year, drag queens in fetish get-up put on a burlesque show in London aimed at mothers and babies aged between 0 and 2. Time and again, children have been exposed to what everyone can surely recognise are adult performances. The sexual nature of these kind of events is almost always obscured in their marketing. This allows organisers and their defenders to dismiss parents' complaints as bigoted and ill-informed. The Munich Story Hour, for example, claims that it will teach children in attendance about boys in dresses, princesses with free will, the colours blue and pink, and the discovery of their own freedom. Freedom from rationality, you twerps, right? On the surface, this sounds relatively harmless, but given the past form of these events, will it really just teach kids about their freedom to dress as they please? When libraries and schools invite adult performers with overtly sexual public personas to interact with children, parents have a right to demand answers. It should be common sense that no 4-year-old needs a drag act to teach him how to read. Least of all, a drag act called Eric Big Clit. Stop it. There have been some great drag names over the years. That ain't one of them, right? How about Virginia Ham? That's a good drag name. Right? Bang Bangladesh. How about that? Or in my case, Fanny Butter. Which was French, so it was Fanny Butter. We know what this is, folks. Right, now. So the conversation came up, right, last night. One of my warrior teachers, who's inspired this video this morning. It is really important to recognise that if you look at who's now come back on Twitter, and you can search and find him, is a character called Kitty Demure, who is a drag queen, right? Now, Kitty Demure was one of the first people to speak out about this and how problematic it was, and were instantly removed from Twitter and YouTube. They now managed to get back on, so Kitty's back again. Kitty takes a completely different tack from most people, and I think it's rather clever. So what Kitty originally said was, take them to Chuck E. Cheese, go and get them to do something else, because they shouldn't be doing this. That was what Kitty says. Now, so I look at Kitty's Twitter profile the other day. I'll stick it in if I can find it. And Kitty'd taken a picture of a child picking its nose. Right? Not taking a picture. You didn't go out randomly looking for a child picking his nose. He'd actually found one online of this small creature picking his nose. And his message was, keep your booger-picking kids out of our bloody clubs. That's a clear message from me. It's true. Parents, keep your children out of our clubs, because some of it's been happening in clubs in America, not over here, but in America, right? Now, it's important to recognise that the reason that this is happening is not, per se, because they just want to get drag queens in front of, children. It's not. It's queer performativity. We've got to start calling it what it is. Because there are drag queens who do drag. It would never occur to them to do this. Never, right? Because they just want to do, the usual stuff in a bar, take as much money as they can off as possible. I've said this before, but I'm reiterating it again. It's queer performativity. So when somebody says to you, I don't see the problem with drag acts in kids, I don't see a problem. What's the problem with drag queen story time? Just say, the problem is it's queer performativity. It's got nothing to do with drag queens. And then just walk away and let them think about it. Right, I'll see you later. Right? Queer performativity means they take the stories from childhood and they turn them into something else. When we know that things like Little Red Riding Hood, the Gingerbread, all the stuff you read when you're a kid is an absolute distillation of the best of parenting over thousands of years. And they have to disrupt that because they have to create the trans child. They're doing it with children with SEN now. They are. That's what they're at. They need children with SEN and children who've got development problems. They need them to be trans too, because otherwise, if they're not trans, nobody can be. So they're going to do that. That's what they're going to do next. They have to have the trans child. Otherwise the whole project fails. It's not drag, it's queer performativity. Call it what it is. Because they've just attached themselves to this like they attach themselves to everything else. Anyway, that's enough about drag for any man or woman. I'm going to think of a new drag name for myself. I don't know what it will be. How about Jester Fanny? Go away! I'm done with drag queens. Bye!